Good morning. It is Tuesday, the 7th of July. I'm Maeve McMahon, and this is Europe Today, your morning digest of European news and analysis, live here on Euronews. Coming up, all eyes are on Ankara, where NATO leaders are gathering for a two-day summit. Under pressure from US President Donald Trump, who's en route, leaders will discuss ways to increase defence spending and address the issue of potential US troop withdrawals from Europe. We'll cross live to the summit to speak exclusively to the Dutch Defence Minister. Meanwhile, French hard-right firebrand Marine Le Pen will find out today whether she can run for the French presidency in next year's elections, as a Paris appeals court decides whether to uphold her embezzlement conviction. The 57-year-old National Rally leader has already run for president 3 times, finishing second to Emmanuel Macron in both 2017 and 2022. And on the pitch, Cristiano Ronaldo's World Cup dream came to an end at the hands of Spain last night in a rather dull game. But in a match that captured the world's attention, the Belgian Red Devils brought their A-game, thrashing the United States 4-1. All eyes were on the US striker Folarin Balogun, whose suspension had been lifted ahead of the match despite his red card in the previous round. We'll get the view from a former UEFA advisor. But first, to Ankara, where all 32 NATO leaders are meeting for their highly anticipated annual summit. Relations between the US President Donald Trump and his NATO allies have been fraught, as Washington has hit out over Europe and Canada's refusal to join the war in Iran. The gathering also comes just as Moscow steps up attacks on Kyiv and as Ukraine warns it has no missiles left to intercept Russian ballistic missiles. For more, we can go straight to Ankara, where our NATO correspondent Shona Murray is standing by for us. Good morning, Shona. Just tell us what is on the agenda today.
Well, good morning, Maeve. And let me just first give you an indication about the immense security apparatus that is taking place here in Ankara. It's not something I've never seen before at any NATO summit, at any situation where I've been in, even when there's a threat of suicide bombs. The whole of the city is completely shut down. It's very difficult to get anywhere unless you're with a NATO official bus. Anytime you look to your left or your right, you have Secret Service, police, the army. It really is quite immense. And it tells you about the volatility of the world, but also geographically where Turkey is located with a very long Syria border. And also, as we know, on several occasions, 4 occasions at least, the Turkish army had to intercept ballistic missiles coming from Iran. But just, I suppose, for a note of today, Donald Trump is on his route here to Ankara. He touches down around 3 o'clock. His first meeting will be with President Erdogan, the host of this summit. It is expected that there will be an announcement from Donald Trump that Turkey may rejoin the United States F-35 program. They were suspended from that a number of years ago for security reasons, but that really kind of goes along with the nature of today, because today is a day of announcements. The several hundreds of billions of dollars worth of defence spending will be announced to, of course, impress Donald Trump, because as we know, he's been railing against NATO allies for underspending for decades. And of course, we'll hear a lot about what Mark Rutte, the NATO Secretary General, is calling Trump's $1 trillion. That is $1 trillion of spending from Canada and Europe over the past 10 years since the first Trump administration. Now, I'm joined, of course, here live in Ankara by the Dutch Defence Minister. Minister, you also will have a lot of announcements today, over €3 billion.
Definitely. We are delivering on our pledge of last year for the 3.5% extra spending, because we think it's very much needed. We have a war on our continent. So we are having different co-productions and coalitions and working together with countries such as Germany, Belgium, UK, making sure that we invest in marine ships, in air defence, in various different capabilities for ourselves.
Indeed, and that has to happen because the United States has made significant announcements of withdrawing capabilities available to NATO. What harm do you think that has on NATO overall?
I don't think it will do any harm, because I think that a strong Europe that is willing and able to deliver, to make sure that it invests in defense spending, it makes a stronger NATO. So I think that what President Trump is asking, it is not new. Previous presidents also asked the same thing about NATO members. Please step up. Don't rely on one ally, and I think that he's rightful to do so. And if you look at me, I'm the Minister of Defence in the Netherlands, and I think that I have to be responsible for the security and safety of my people within the alignment of the NATO. So it's very important that I also deliver, make sure that we invest, and make sure that we are a strong partner.
And of course, this summit has been described by Mark Rutte as a crucial summit because of this. But would you say that this is really the start of the Europeanisation of NATO? Europe really taking control of NATO in some ways?
Well, I think we should be able to be strong partners. That is the key. So the US will, of course, be one of the most important allies, such as Turkey, very strong armies, a lot of spending, but Europe has to deliver as well. So last year in The Hague, we promised a lot, but it's only worth those promises if you really deliver. So today I hope that I will see that from my colleagues, and colleagues who are not delivering, I will be talking to them as well, because we have to do this together, united. As you well know, we have a war on our own continent. We have an enemy facing us, Putin, and it's very important that we are also able to stand up.
What we will hear from Donald Trump undoubtedly is his severe anger over what he says is NATO allies abandoning the United States when it comes to the war in Iran. But now we know that Germany and the UK did give the US plenty of basing rights and access to military bases, but that doesn't really matter to Donald Trump. He is very annoyed with NATO. What do you expect from today? How will you respond? How will you placate him?
Well, I think it's crucial that we all have a cool and calm head, because, we should be united. We have enemies against us, and those enemies fear us with reason, because united we stay strong. So whatever today and tomorrow will happen, you will hear from me only this message. We need to be united, we need solidarity, we need to deliver. Just stay calm and make sure that you do your job.
In a word, do you think that the tide is turning in the war in Ukraine? Do you think that that's why Donald Trump is also being a bit more supportive, because he likes to back the winner?
I don't know what the reason might be, but I think it's very important that we support Ukraine. You are completely right. There is a window, there is a momentum right now. And Ukraine is doing such a good job in standing firm, protecting, and also not only its own country, but the rest of Europe. So I hope that many other countries will also not only pledge, but deliver for Ukraine. The Netherlands has been doing so since the beginning of the war. We are in the top 3 or 5 countries in the world supporting Ukraine. And I hope to see many more colleagues adding up, making sure that they have the car productions on drones, the Pearl packages. I can continue.
Exactly. We'll see an awful lot about it today. But Minister Socarius, thank you very much for joining us on Euronews. And back to you in studio, Maeve.
Thank you so much, Shona Murray there, and to your guest, the Minister of Defence for the Netherlands. And now we can head to France, where a Paris court is due to decide whether Marine Le Pen can stand in the 2027 presidential elections. It's a ruling with potentially far-reaching political consequences, and one being watched very closely here in Brussels, as she stands accused of misusing EU funds. For more, we're joined in the studio by our French correspondent, Maya Delabaume. So it's a big day for Marine Le Pen. Just remind us, what is at stake and what does this mean for her political career?
Yes, Maeve, it's a big day for France today. We will know if Marine Le Pen can run in the next presidential election in 2027, so a year from now. And so today is really the verdict from an appeals court that will confirm a sentence that has already been imposed on her in 2025. If you remember, Marine Le Pen was sentenced to 4 years in prison, to a €100,000 fine, and most importantly, to a ban for her to hold public office for 5 years, which means she couldn't run. So Marine Le Pen, what she did is she appealed this verdict, and now this Paris court, this appeal court, is supposed to confirm or not this verdict, and we will know today at 1:30 if Marine Le Pen can run in this presidential election. The sentence is linked to a case of embezzlement of EU funds.
And if the decision goes against her, we know Jordan Bardella is waiting in the wings, right?
Absolutely. If the verdict confirms that Marine Le Pen cannot run for the next presidential election, it really opens the way for Jordan Bardella, who is Marine Le Pen's political heir, or his protégé, let's say, who is very well positioned right now to really enter the race, and he's a very successful candidate. We have seen him very high in the polls. He's even, according to the latest poll, is having a slight lead over Marine Le Pen. He is seen clearly as the natural natural hair. But the problem is he's also seen as a very young candidate. He's only 30 years old and he's still very inexperienced. And this, by contrast, Marine Le Pen is clearly, we've seen her, as you said, entering the race 3 times. She's very experienced. She has been in politics for many, many years. She has taken the lead over the party since 2011. So she is the natural candidate. But we will see in the days to come, because we know this is imminent, that Jordan Bardella will probably announce his candidacy very soon.
OK, all eyes on that hearing. The verdict will be read out at 1:30 Central European Time. Maida Laboum, thank you so much for that. But now, moving on, with the summer holiday season officially underway, the European Commission is scrambling to ensure the EU's new entry-exit system doesn't cause chaos at European airports. Ari Yakubianis takes a look at the latest Brussels headache.
If you hold a non-EU passport, Brussels has a brand new welcome package for your next European summer holiday. The biometric entry-exit system was designed to log your face and fingerprints in around 70 seconds to catch overstayers. But try telling that to travelling families trapped in a sweating airport terminal. And as the holiday season peaks, the grand vision of smart EU borders has collided with a physical breakdown, risking the travel plans of millions. So welcome to the premium queuing experience. The automated network is now live across 29 European nations. And since the rollout, the digital net caught 40,000 border refusals and identified 1,000 security risks. To Brussels, these figures prove the database works by instantly flagging visa overstayers and fake documents. But here goes a problem. Biometric collection is triggering a systemic operational crisis. Industry lobbies report waiting times at border control reaching up to 5 hours during peak periods, and warn these delays put over 40 million arrivals and $45 billion of tourist spending at risk. This bottleneck hits just as European hubs prepare to handle 40 million more passengers than they did in May and June. So who's to blame for the chaos? It looks like national capitals failed to prepare. Many airports lack border guards, digital kiosks and basic infrastructure. And the rollout is a fragmented mess because some capitals bought the equipment while others struggle to do so. And the EU system forces guards to collect fingerprints from every first-time arrival, which in turn creates an instant dead stop at the gate. The European Border Agency Frontex admits the chaotic biometric registration could take up to 2 years to stabilize. But hey, look at the bright side. You now have roughly 700 days to practice your queuing technique and even enough time to learn a local language.
Now, moving on, the ongoing conflict in the Middle East and a potential sell-off in US assets are the 2 biggest risks facing the Eurozone economy. That's according to fresh analysis from the European Stability Mechanism, which warns the shocks could tip the euro area into recession and push inflation as high as 5%. The Luxembourg-based institution was set up in the wake of the Greek debt crisis to provide financial support to Eurozone countries in times of distress. For more, we're joined now by the ESM's chief economist, that's Wolf Strauch. Good morning, great to have you with us.
Good morning, Maeve.
So this is quite a gloomy outlook you're presenting here. Tell us more about your findings.
From the perspective of the European Stability Mechanism, euro area resilience is coming under strain. And we see on the one hand that geoeconomic and geopolitical risks are rising. And you have security threats, you have energy price disruption, you have financial market volatility and fragmentation in the trading system. And on the other hand, you see that this leads to higher demands on governments, while the fiscal space is shrinking. And that is what we mean when resilience is coming under strain. Governments need to create fiscal buffers and they need to create growth.
So many of our viewers would be worried this morning about this risk of a potential recession. How high is it?
The point is, as a crisis resolution mechanism, you ask what happens if things go wrong, not what will actually happen. When you ask the second question, what will happen, you do a forecast. We do a scenario analysis, and as you said before, if we have 2 shocks, a meltdown of US assets and a re-escalation of a conflict, yes, then the risk is high that we will have a recession. And that is what we point out in order to be prepared for a crisis, not because we are predicting the crisis.
And is the Eurozone stronger now than it was for these potential kind of shocks?
The shocks that we will maybe seeing is indeed the Middle East conflict And that leads to higher energy prices and uncertainty. And on the other hand, a meltdown in US assets that would imply that we have faced tighter financial conditions.
So what should consumers be doing and thinking now?
We think that governments mainly should be prepared, and that means that they have to get growth going. And that will help also the consumers.
And just finally today in Ankara, billions are being pledged for defence. Can European countries afford this?
Well, European countries could create a win-win situation here. And we have looked in depth into the defense spending. And when you actually create a situation where defense spending spills over into the civilian economy, then you can recover 53 cents for each additional euro spent through taxes and higher growth.
OK. Wolf Strauch, Chief Economist at the European Stability Mechanism, thank you so much for coming into us and being our guest. But now it is time for the FIFA World Cup segment. Well, a very late goal from Spain ended Portugal's 2026 World Cup rodeo and could also mark the end of Cristiano Ronaldo's remarkable international career. The superstar had tears in his eyes at the final whistle as he came to terms with the sobering consequences of this defeat. And meanwhile, all eyes, of course, were really on the controversy-riddled match of the US against Belgium. The Red Devils, as I'm sure you've seen, prevailed in a convincing 4-1 victory, taking to social media as well to suggest you cannot overturn this. That was a blatant message to President Donald Trump, who'd called the FIFA president previously to allow for the top US striker, Folarin Balogun, to play that game. Let's take a listen to Donald Trump before the game.
Yes, I asked for a review by FIFA. I spoke to a man who's highly respected. I asked for a review because I didn't think it was a foul. And, you know, again, I'm good at this stuff. I didn't think it was a foul. I thought it was two great athletes that crashed into each other and got entangled. That was not a guy punching somebody in the face or anything that, you know, would be different.
Now, in the end, Folarin Balogun played but did not score. But the decision to exempt the US striker from the one-match ban after his red card against Bosnia-Herzegovina did create an international outcry from the European Football Association, UEFA, and also the EU Commissioner for Sports, Glenn Michailif. For an expert view, we spoke to William Galliard, the former UEFA President Advisor.
It's completely against the rules and the status of FIFA, not only because there is obvious political interference in the decision that should have been made by an independent body within FIFA, and that is quite a scandal, frankly, but also because it violates all the rules. The fact that FIFA accepts the fact that the President of the United States can interfere and decide about the game, about the tournament, about the management of FIFA is completely unacceptable. Definitely, the fairness of this competition is threatened.
And meanwhile, tonight, the final two spots in the quarterfinals will be fought out between Argentina and Egypt, and also Switzerland against Colombia. Enjoy the games, because that does bring this edition of Europe Today to an end. Thank you so much for your company. As always, if you have any views on any of the stories we're covering for you here, europetoday@euronews.com. That is our email address. But thank you so much for tuning in. Have a lovely morning and see you very soon on Euronews.